One.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce our group before we start. I'm Dan, the one speaking right now. This is Travis on my screen at the moment. Say hi, Travis.
Hi, everyone.
And also Donna, who's part of our group.
Hi, everyone.
And today we are going to talk to you about our microfinance program, which is a student housing program in Ulaanbaatar. Okay. So for some context, Ulaanbaatar is the capital and biggest city in Mongolia, has about half of Mongolia's population. One of its issues is it has massive informal, unplanned settlements on the outskirts of the city. You have these gers, which are these white tents you see in the top picture there. And as people moved into the city over time from inside Mongolia, they take those portable tents, gers with them, place them down in an empty spot, and then that becomes sort of the city structure. And this has resulted in a very dense urban core, and outside of that, just a very large, sprawling, massive, unplanned development. This has lots of issues for the people living in that unplanned development, lack of access to transportation, lack of access to employment, no central heating, water, electricity. The use of coal stoves for heating creates a lot of air pollution. As you can see here, Ulaanbaatar's air pollution can be up to 5 times worse than Beijing's, according to this chart from Bloomberg. And also lack of access to educational opportunities, which is what we're going to talk about today. So in Ulaanbaatar, there's relatively high levels of education overall. The level of tertiary education has risen over the past couple decades, but there's still access issues. So there's a large urban-rural divide where urban dwellers can much more easily access education than those that live in rural areas. Also, the educational debt burden disproportionately affects rural dwellers. And there's financial aid programs from the government for this, but they tend to be poorly targeted. And Travis is going to tell you about the response to these issues in the next slide.
Thanks, Dan. So this proposal is actually, this business is based on a real business that exists. It has been established for a number of years, and essentially what it is a boarding house that provides entry-level affordable housing for rural students settling in UB to go to university. So it's already proven itself as a sustainable business model. It was set up with no external funding or debts, and it obviously addresses an identified need in the market and therefore has been sustainable over a number of years. It only provides basic facilities at this point, and part of the reason is to keep the rental costs low. But as an adjunct to that, it also accepts non-cash and in-kind payments from the residents for those rural students that may be cash poor. It's also, as you can see from the map on the right-hand side, they're walking distance to the National University and some of the technical colleges, and it's located just on that urban fringe where the services start to become limited and access to infrastructure. It also provides some limited on-site student support to assist those students to settle into city life. So here's a couple of photos on the next slide of the boarding house as it currently is. It currently has 14 boarding rooms and a shared kitchen that you can see on the top right-hand side there. And on the bottom right is a photo of one of the dorm rooms. So reasonably comfortable, but quite basic accommodation is provided at this point. So about the proprietor, so again, this is based on a real business model and based on a real person, a person called Khan Suk, who's a close personal friend of mine. So he's an experienced entrepreneur who's set up a number of small businesses both here in Australia and in Mongolia. self-made and funded the initial building and establishment itself. And he's been able to recognise that there are some opportunities to increase the social and environmental impact of this boarding house, and he's keen to explore some of that. So Guns and his friends and family also have some of the skills to implement some of the improvements that they're looking to do. And obviously, as a businessman, he's also has a willingness to accept some of those non-cash and in-kind payments from some of the residents. Guns also has strong English language skills, which means that he can interact easily with foreign aid agencies and other funding sources and partners. So the proposal at this point is to upgrade the existing facility and services in order to create a replicable model that could be scaled up in order to increase some of that impact, so potentially replicated in other parts of the city. So there's two elements to that. The first part is sustainability enhancements, and the second part is looking at social impact. So under sustainability, we've looked at options for rainwater capture, purification, and insulated storage. Obviously, access to clean water is a problem, and when you do have access to clean water, it freezes in the winter in the minus 40-degree temperatures. Also, to deal with the pollution problem, looking at solar panels for electricity, heating, and hot water, and potentially introducing some low soot stove fuels for if they did need to bolster some of that power usage with traditional fuels. And then also an opportunity there to adaptively reuse some underutilised buildings. This is one of the replication options that we're looking at, is to see how we could repurpose existing buildings in order to turn them over to this sort of purpose. In terms of the social impact enhancements, we're looking at a potential scale up to other centres and districts within the city. There are other areas that are underserviced at this point that could benefit from this. Also looking at enhancing some of the settlement and study support services within the centre, and looking at ways to sort of foster a more supportive social network and peer support type function in and amongst the residents themselves. And also potentially some opportunities to create ongoing employment opportunities for the boarding house proprietors so that they have some sustainability in the business model and an opportunity to scale it up and broaden the impact. So Donna is now going to talk to you about how you can help.
So thanks to Text and Travis about the project. There's two main ways in which you can help. The first is via financial contribution. So whether that's via low interest loan, sponsorship of a student, it does cost about $1,200 per year for a student to live at the boarding house, or an in-kind contribution of any technical equipment or building materials that could be of assistance. We would certainly welcome that. The second avenue is through volunteer contributions. So obviously there's a range of projects proposed to underpin the sustainability of the building and the project. So solar, water, electricians, carpenters. We'd be very keen to talk to anyone with those skills who was interested in participating in this project. And we'll welcome the opportunity to engage with you. So thank you for your time. Thanks also to Daniel and Travis. And we'll leave the forum open for any questions about our project.